The first time Adrian Moretti saw Nia Carter, she was standing in the rain outside his father's memorial dinner, holding her little boy behind her like the whole world was trying to steal him. 2 guards had blocked the mansion doors. One of them had already knocked her grocery bag into a puddle. The other was laughing at her son's worn-out sneakers. "This is a private family event," the guard said. "Catering staff used the back entrance. Beggars used the street." Nia's jaw tightened, but she did not cry. Her 7-year-old son, Malik, clutched her coat with one hand and a small brown envelope with the other. Then the mansion doors opened. Adrian Moretti stepped into the light wearing a black suit, his tattooed hand resting against the silver head of his cane, his face cold enough to silence the rain itself. Men moved when he moved. Women stopped whispering. Even the guards lowered their eyes. Nia had never met him. She had only heard his name in the same tone people used for storms, court dates, and locked doors. Adrian looked at the envelope in Malik's shaking hand. Then he looked at Nia. "My father died owing you a debt," he said. Nia blinked through the rain. "I don't know your father." Adrian's eyes darkened. "No," he said quietly. "But he knew you." Inside the mansion, Adrian's family froze. Because the debt was not money. It was blood. And the little boy holding that envelope was about to expose the secret they had buried beneath a dead man's name. 6 hours earlier, Nia Carter had been counting coins on her kitchen table while her son pretended not to notice. Their apartment was small, 3rd floor, no elevator, thin walls, weak heat, and a bathroom ceiling that leaked every time the upstairs neighbor showered. The kitchen window faced a brick wall, but every morning Malik still stood on a chair and said the sky looked almost blue if he squinted. He was 7, thin from being sick too often, with deep brown skin, bright eyes, and a seriousness that hurt Nia more than tantrums ever could. Children were supposed to ask for toys, extra pancakes, a second bedtime story. Malik asked whether the landlord would turn off the lights before Friday. Nia was 31, a black single mother with tired eyes, soft natural curls usually tied back under a scarf, and hands that carried the evidence of every job she had ever worked. Cleaning hotels, serving private dinners, folding laundry at a nursing home, delivering medicine to elderly neighbors for tips. She had learned how to smile when rich women spoke to her like furniture and how to keep walking when men stared too long. But lately, walking was getting harder. The eviction notice lay on the table beside Malik's inhaler. 3 months behind. The landlord, Mr. Harrow, had raised the rent after claiming the building had new ownership. The heat still broke. The mold still grew behind Malik's bed. The water still smelled like rust. But the rent had doubled, and Nia had been told if she did not like it, she could find somewhere else. Somewhere else. As if the city handed safe apartments to single mothers with sick children and no savings. That morning, Malik slid a folded paper flower across the table. "For your interview," he said. Nia smiled tiredly. "It's not an interview, baby. It's a catering shift. At a mansion. Yes. With fancy people. Very fancy. Then you need a flower." Nia picked it up like it was made of gold. "I do." Her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus Reed. "You better have my money tonight." Nia turned the phone over quickly, but Malik saw. Marcus was not Malik's father. He was the man Nia had made the mistake of trusting 2 years after Malik's father died in a construction accident. Marcus had smiled at her son, fixed her sink once, bought groceries once, and then slowly turned every favor into a leash. When Nia finally pushed him out of their lives, he left behind debt collectors, threats, and lies. He had recently started saying the debt was bigger than she understood. That was the part that scared her. Because Marcus was not smart enough to be dangerous on his own. Someone was feeding him information. That afternoon, when Nia picked Malik up from school, she found him sitting alone outside the nurse's office, clutching his backpack. "What happened?" she asked. He shrugged. "They said I was coughing too much for class." His teacher looked embarrassed. The nurse looked annoyed. "Mrs. Carter," the nurse said, "the school really needs updated medical forms and a backup inhaler. We've asked before." Nia swallowed the shame. "I know. I'm working on it. Malik looked at the floor. On the bus ride home, he leaned against her arm and whispered, I'm sorry I'm expensive. Nia's heart cracked so sharply she almost could not breathe. She turned his face toward hers. Don't you ever say that again. You are not expensive. You are priceless. He nodded, but the sadness stayed in his eyes. That was why Nia took the catering shift at the Moretti mansion, even after she heard whose memorial dinner it was. Matteo Moretti, the dead king of the Moretti family, the old mafia boss whose name had lived in the city longer than most street signs. People said Matteo had been cruel in business, loyal in blood, and impossible to refuse. His son Adrian had inherited everything after a bullet shattered one leg during a dockyard ambush 5 years earlier. Since then, Adrian ruled with a cane, a quiet voice, and a reputation colder than winter. Nia told herself she would not see him. She would enter through the staff door, carry trays, keep her head down, collect the cash, and buy Malik's medicine. But when her babysitter canceled, she had no choice but to bring Malik with her. Stay in the staff room, she told him as they walked toward the mansion gates under a gray sky. No wandering, no touching anything, no questions. Malik nodded. I'll be invisible. Nia stopped walking. No, she said. You never have to be invisible. Just safe. But by the time they reached the mansion, safety had already been locked behind gates made for people richer than mercy. The Moretti estate looked less like a home and more like a warning. Black iron gates opened onto a long drive lined with cypress trees. The mansion was white stone and dark windows, glowing from within. Men in black suits stood beneath balconies. Luxury cars curved along the driveway, their polished bodies reflecting the rain. Nia held Malik's hand and followed the catering crew toward the side entrance. Before she reached it, Mr. Harrow stepped out from behind a parked car. Her landlord. She stopped so suddenly Malik bumped into her side. Harrow wore an expensive coat she had never seen before and a smile that did not belong on his thin mouth. Nia Carter, he said. I was hoping you'd show. Her stomach tightened. What are you doing here? Private security contract. He lifted a badge clipped to his coat. New opportunities come when you know the right people. Marcus stepped out beside him. Nia's blood went cold. Marcus, she whispered. He smiled like a man who had already spent money he did not earn. You didn't answer my messages. Malik moved behind Nia. Nia kept her voice low. Not here. Marcus looked at Malik. Still dragging the kid everywhere? No wonder you can't get your life together. Nia's hand tightened around her son's. Harrow glanced at Malik's shoes and smirked. This is not a place for children dressed like that. Nia felt heat climb her neck. He'll stay with the staff. No, Harrow said. He won't. The catering manager, a nervous woman named Elise, hurried over. Nia, what's the problem? Harrow answered for her. The problem is your server brought a child to a Moretti memorial. Elise's face changed. Nia, I told you this was delicate. My sitter canceled. Please, he won't make a sound. Marcus laughed. That's what she always says. Then the boy starts coughing and everybody has to stop the world. Malik's eyes dropped. Nia turned on Marcus. Do not talk about my son. Harrow stepped closer. You should worry less about tone and more about paperwork. Your eviction is being filed Monday. Nia stared at him. You said I had 2 weeks. I changed my mind. You can't do that. I can do many things, Harrow said. Especially now. Nia looked past him toward the mansion. Something was wrong. Harrow did not belong here. Marcus did not belong here. Men like them did not just appear at Mafia memorials unless someone invited them. Before she could speak, a woman in a dark green silk dress approached from the mansion entrance. She was elegant, older, with silver hair pinned perfectly and pearls at her throat. Viola Moretti, Adrian's aunt. Everyone in the catering crew stiffened as she came near. Her eyes landed on Nia, then Malik, and then the muddy water around their shoes. This is the disturbance? Viola asked. Harrow bowed his head slightly. Yes, ma'am. Nia's chest tightened at the respect in his voice. Viola looked Nia up and down. You were hired to serve, not to bring your personal failures to our door. Nia swallowed hard. My son is not a failure. Viola's smile was soft and poisonous. No, children are rarely the failure. They are usually the evidence. Marcus chuckled. Malik's hand trembled inside Nia's. Something inside her snapped. She stepped forward, rain sliding down her face. I came here to work, not to be insulted. Pay me for the prep hours and we'll leave. Viola raised one brow. You think you can demand money at a Moretti door? I think work deserves payment. A few guards looked at her like she had lost her mind. Viola's expression hardened. Remove her. 2 guards moved. Malik suddenly pulled free from Nia and reached into his backpack. Wait! He cried. Nia turned. Malik, no. But he already had the brown envelope in his hand. It was old. So old the corners had softened. Nia had found it after her mother died, hidden inside a Bible with her name written on it. She had never opened it. Not fully. The front said, to Nia Carter, when trouble finds you. Malik had taken it without telling her. He held it up now, small arm shaking. My grandma said this was for my mom, he said. Viola's face changed, just for a second. But Nia saw it. So did Harrow. Marcus whispered. Where did he get that? Then the front doors opened. Adrian Moretti stepped out. The rain seemed to quiet around him. He was 42, tall, broad-shouldered, light olive skin, dark slicked-back hair, sharp jawline, and intense eyes that made everyone else feel temporary. His black suit was perfectly cut, his collar slightly open, and dark tattoos curled from his neck beneath the fabric. His right hand, tattooed across the knuckles, gripped a cane with a silver wolf head. He looked at the guards blocking Nia, then at Malik, then at the envelope. No one spoke. Adrian descended the steps slowly, each tap of the cane against stone sounding like a countdown. When he reached Nia, his gaze held hers. My father died owing you a debt, he said. Nia's breath caught. I don't know your father. Adrian looked at the envelope again. He knew your name. Viola stepped forward quickly. Adrian, this is nothing. A staff issue. He did not look at her. What is your name? He asked Nia. Nia Carter. The rain ran down his face, but he did not blink. At the name Carter, something old and painful moved behind his eyes. Come inside, he said. Viola's voice sharpened. Absolutely not. Adrian finally turned to her. The temperature seemed to drop. Did you give an order in my house? Viola's lips pressed together. Nia stepped back. I don't want trouble. I just need to leave. Harrow laughed nervously. That's best. She owes rent. She owes other people too. Not exactly memorial dinner company. Adrian's eyes moved to him. Who are you? Harrow straightened. Building owner. Contractor. I handle some property matters for your aunt. Adrian looked at Viola. She looked away. That was the first crack. Malik began coughing. Not a small cough. The deep, tight kind that folded his little body forward. Nia dropped to her knees in the rain and dug through her bag for the inhaler. It's empty, Malik gasped. Her hands shook. No, baby, no, breathe slow. Adrian crouched despite the stiffness in his injured leg. Doctor, he said without raising his voice. A guard ran. Nia looked up, panicked. He just needs a pharmacy. I can handle it. Adrian's gaze flicked to the boy's blue lips. No, he said. You have been handling too much alone. For once, Nia did not have a reply. Inside the mansion, no one mocked her when Adrian carried Malik in his own arms. The memorial dinner had been arranged in the grand hall, but Adrian ordered everyone into the library while the doctor treated Malik in a guest suite. Wealthy relatives stood around polished tables with wine glasses in their hands, pretending not to stare at the black single mother dripping rain onto their imported rugs. Nia stood near the doorway, wrapped in a towel someone had brought, too tense to sit. Through the half-open door, she could see Malik on a sofa, breathing through a nebulizer, his small chest rising easier now. Adrian stood beside the fireplace, holding the old envelope. He had not opened it yet. Viola sat in an armchair with her pearls. Calm again. That calm frightened Nia more than anger. Adrian, Viola said smoothly, your father was generous to strays. It often created confusion. Nia's chin lifted. I am not a stray. A few relatives turned. Viola smiled. Of course not. You are a mother. That makes the performance more convincing. Nia took one step forward. Lady, I have been called many things by people richer than me. But do not stand in front of my sick child and call my struggle a performance. The room fell silent. Adrian watched her with unreadable eyes. Viola's face tightened. You are in this house because my nephew is grieving. I am in this house because your guards blocked my child's medicine in the rain. Harrow muttered. She always plays victim. Nia turned on him. You raised rent on a moldy apartment and then stood in the rain laughing while my son couldn't breathe. Adrian's gaze sharpened. Mold. Nia froze. She had said too much. Harrow's face went pale. Tenants exaggerate. Adrian walked toward him, cane tapping once. Twice. Where is the building? Harrow swallowed. Viola answered first. A small property near Fulton Avenue. Nothing important. Adrian looked at her. My father owned property near Fulton. Viola's expression flickered. Nia's heart began to pound. Adrian slit open the envelope. Inside were three things. A photograph, a deed, and a letter written in an old man's hand. Adrian unfolded the letter. His father's handwriting filled the page. If this reaches Nia Carter, then I failed to face her while breathing. Her father, Samuel Carter, saved my life the night the Ravelli family burned the East Warehouse. Samuel died pulling me from the fire. I promised his wife I would protect their daughter. I failed. If I die before the debt is paid, Adrian must pay it. The Carter woman and her child are family under my name. The Fulton building belongs to them. No Moretti hand is to touch what is theirs. The room went still. Nia stared at the letter without understanding. My father, she whispered. Her father had died before she could remember him. Her mother had only said he was brave, and bravery had cost him. Adrian looked at the deed, then at Viola. This building, he said. Fulton Avenue. Viola's hands tightened on her pearls. Adrian's voice remained calm. Why is Nia Carter paying rent on a building my father gave her? No one breathed. Harrow tried to step back. Adrian did not raise his voice. Answer carefully. Viola stood. Mateo was old, guilty, sentimental. That letter means nothing legally. Nia's hands trembled. You knew. Viola looked at her like she was something unpleasant on the floor. I knew your mother begged my brother-in-law for favors after her husband died. Nia stepped forward, pain becoming anger. My mother worked 2 jobs until her hands swelled. She never begged anyone. Viola's eyes hardened. Then she should have taught you not to bring children into powerful houses. From the guest suite doorway, Malik's small voice spoke. She did teach me. Everyone turned. Malik stood wrapped in a blanket, holding the mask from the nebulizer in one hand. His breathing was still rough, but his eyes were clear. She taught me if someone saves your life, you say thank you. He looked at Adrian. So thank you. Adrian froze. Not because of the words, because Malik's small hand reached for his tattooed one without fear. A child thanking him, not fearing him, not asking for money, not knowing his name meant danger. Just thank you. Adrian looked down at Malik's fingers wrapped around his hand, and something in his face changed. Nia rushed over. Baby, you should be lying down. I'm okay, Malik whispered. Then he looked at Viola. Why did you take our house? The question was soft. The damage was brutal. Viola's mouth opened, but no answer came. Adrian gently released Malik's hand and turned to his men. Find every document tied to Fulton Avenue, every transfer, every signature, every account my aunt touched. Viola's voice rose. You are embarrassing the family over strangers. Adrian turned back slowly. They stopped being strangers when my father wrote their names in blood. Nia felt the world tilt beneath her. For years, she had believed poverty was something she had failed to escape. Now she was standing inside a mansion listening to a mafia boss say her life had been stolen before she ever knew it belonged to her. Adrian brought them to the East Wing after midnight. Nia argued, of course. She argued in the hallway while Malik slept in her arms. She argued when the housekeeper opened a guest room bigger than their apartment. She argued when Adrian ordered food, medicine, dry clothes, and a pediatric specialist for mourning. "I'm not staying here like some rescued charity case," she said. Adrian stood near the doorway, cane in one hand, his injured leg stiff beneath the suit. "No," he said. "You are staying here because men connected to my family stole from you, threatened you, and nearly cost your son his breath. I don't know you. I know. I don't trust mafia men." "Good." She blinked, thrown off. He met her eyes. "Trust should be earned. Fear is cheap." Nia looked down at Malik asleep against her shoulder, his face peaceful for the first time all day. "What do you want from me?" she asked. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Nothing. Nobody gives protection for nothing. My father owed a debt. Your father is dead. Then I carry it." His answer was simple. Too simple. And that made it dangerous. Nia laid Malik on the bed, covered him with a blanket, then turned back. "I have spent years keeping men from deciding what my life should be. My landlord, my ex-bosses, case workers, doctors who don't listen, teachers who assume. I will not trade them for a prettier cage." Adrian looked at her for a long moment. Then he placed a key on the table. "The door locks from your side." She stared at it. "You may leave whenever you choose," he said. "But if you stay tonight, my men stand outside to keep danger out, not you in." The words found a place in her chest she did not want touched. Before she could answer, his phone rang. He looked at the screen. His expression turned to stone. "What?" Nia asked. Adrian slipped the phone into his pocket. "Marcus Reed just tried to access your apartment." Her blood went cold. "What?" "My men followed Harrow after he left. He met Marcus behind your building." Nia stepped back, hand over her mouth. Adrian's voice dropped. They were not alone. He showed her a still image from a security camera. Marcus stood near the apartment entrance, Harrow beside him, and behind them, half hidden under a black umbrella, stood Viola Moretti. Nia felt the floor vanish. "She sent them," she whispered. Adrian's eyes went colder than she had seen all night. "Yes." The next morning, the Moretti mansion became a courtroom without a judge. Adrian called the family back into the grand hall. No one dared refuse. Men arrived in dark suits, women in silk, cousins, accountants, lawyers, old family advisors, all summoned beneath chandeliers that made every lie look expensive. Nia wanted to stay upstairs. Then Malik asked, "Are we hiding again?" That decided it. She dressed in a simple black dress the housekeeper found for her, tied her hair back, and walked into the hall holding her son's hand. Every conversation stopped. Some faces showed pity. Some showed irritation. Some showed the same cold curiosity she had seen too many times in grocery lines and school offices. Who let her in here? Viola sat at the long table as if she still owned the air. Harrow stood near her, sweating. Marcus leaned against the wall pretending to be calm, but the tremor in his jaw betrayed him. Adrian stood at the head of the table. Tall, black suit, open collar, tattooed hand wrapped around the cane. Behind him, documents were arranged in neat stacks. He looked at Nia. "You do not have to speak." She lifted her chin. "I know." "Then why are you here?" "Because my son asked if we were hiding again." Malik stood a little taller. Something like respect moved across Adrian's face. He turned to the room. "My father left a debt unpaid. Samuel Carter saved Matteo Moretti's life. In return, Matteo transferred ownership of the Fulton Avenue building and a protected trust to Samuel's daughter, Nia Carter." A murmur moved through the hall. Adrian lifted one document. These transfers were hidden. The trust was drained. The building was placed under shell companies controlled by Viola Moretti. Viola laughed softly. "You sound like a prosecutor." "No," Adrian said. A prosecutor would give you more mercy. Marcus shifted toward the door. 2 guards blocked him. Nia looked at him. You knew. Marcus's mask fell. I knew there was money, he snapped. I knew you were sitting on something and acting poor. You think I liked watching you play Saint while I had people breathing down my neck? Nia's eyes filled, but her voice stayed steady. You watched my son sleep next to mold. Marcus looked away. Harrow muttered. Nobody forced her to stay there. Malik suddenly stepped forward. She stayed because you said you'd put us on the street. The room went quiet. Harrow scoffed. Kids exaggerate. Malik reached into the pocket of his borrowed hoodie and pulled out Nia's old phone. Nia froze. Malik. He looked guilty. I recorded when Mr. Harrow came last week. I was scared. Adrian's eyes sharpened. The recording played through the hall. Harrow's voice filled the silence. If your boy coughs himself sick, that's not my problem. Pay by Monday or I throw both of you out. And if you talk about mold, Marcus says accidents happen to nosy mothers. Nia closed her eyes. She had not known Malik heard that. Adrian's face did not change, but the hall grew colder. Then another voice came through the recording. Viola's. Keep pressure on her. If the Carter woman leaves the city before Adrian sees the file, we are safe. The recording ended. No one moved. The child had exposed what every adult tried to hide. Adrian looked at Viola. You used a sick child to protect stolen money. Viola stood slowly. I protected this family from your father's guilt. Mateo was weak near the end. He wanted to give property to a black woman he had never met because her father died in a fire decades ago. Do you understand what that would have looked like? Nia stepped forward before Adrian could answer. It would have looked like justice. Viola's eyes cut to her. Nia's voice shook, but she did not stop. My father died saving your family's king. My mother buried him and raised me alone. I buried her and raised my son alone. And all this time, you sat on what belonged to us and called me irresponsible for drowning. The room was silent. Nia looked at Marcus. You called my son a burden. Then Harrow. You made him sick. Then Viola. And you stole from a dead man, a widow, a daughter, and a child. Her tears slipped, but her spine stayed straight. I don't want your pity. I want every door you closed to open in daylight. Adrian looked at her as if something inside him had shifted permanently. Then he turned to his family. Viola Moretti is removed from all family authority. Her accounts are frozen. Any business loyal to her loses my protection by sunset. Viola's face went pale. You cannot do that. I already did. He nodded to his lawyer. The man opened a folder. Police and federal investigators have received copies of the financial records, extortion evidence, and building safety violations. Harrow nearly collapsed. Federal. Adrian looked at him. Mold in a child's bedroom becomes interesting when tied to fraud, intimidation, and stolen property. Marcus lunged forward suddenly, pointing at Nia. You think he cares about you? He's Mafia. He'll use you until you're inconvenient. Nia flinched, but Adrian stepped between them. One step. That was all. A wall of black suit, tattoos, power, and promise. Speak to her again, Adrian said quietly, and you will learn how inconvenient breathing can become. Marcus shut his mouth, but Nia touched Adrian's arm. No. He looked down at her hand. She removed it quickly. Don't make my son remember today as the day violence saved us. Adrian held her gaze, then nodded. Take him. He ordered the officers waiting near the side entrance. Marcus screamed as they dragged him out. Harrow begged. Viola said nothing, which somehow made her defeat louder. When officers took her past Nia, Viola stopped. This house will never accept you. Nia looked at her. Calm now. I didn't ask your house for permission. For the first time, Viola had no answer. By sunset, Nia stood in front of the Fulton Avenue building with Adrian beside her. The rain had stopped. The brick walls looked the same. Worn, old, exhausted. But now, for the first time, Nia saw them differently. Not as the place that trapped her. As the place that had been stolen. Malik stood on the sidewalk holding the deed in both hands like a treasure map. So we own it? He asked. Nia swallowed hard. I think so. Adrian corrected gently. You do. Malik looked up at him. Can we fix the heat? Adrian's expression softened. Yes. And the ceiling? Yes. And the mold? That first. Malik nodded seriously. Good. Because Mom says breathing should not be fancy. Nia laughed through tears. Adrian looked at her. What? She asked. Your son speaks like someone who has been forced to understand too much. He has. I am sorry. She looked at the building. You didn't do it. My family did. That's not the same thing. He was quiet for a moment. In my world, it usually is. Nia turned to him. Then maybe your world is wrong. A man like Adrian Moretti should have been insulted. Instead, he smiled faintly. Perhaps. A black SUV pulled up. Adrian's doctor stepped out with Malik's new inhalers, medicine, and a medical plan. Another car arrived with contractors. A third with boxes of groceries. Nia stiffened. Adrian. He lifted one tattooed hand. Not charity. It looks like charity. It is repayment. I don't want to owe you. His voice lowered. You don't. I owe you. She searched his face. For how long? His eyes moved to Malik, who was showing a contractor the crack in the lobby ceiling like he had been hired as supervisor. As long as it takes to make the debt feel less like a wound. Nia did not know what to do with that. Powerful men had always wanted something from her. Gratitude, silence, forgiveness, access, control. Adrian seemed to want permission to repair what his blood had broken. That was more dangerous than charm. Days passed. The building changed first. Workers ripped out moldy walls. New heaters arrived. Pipes were replaced. Families who had lived in fear of eviction were told their rents would be lowered, repairs completed, and no one would be removed. Nia insisted every tenant receive written protection. Adrian's lawyers wrote it. Nia read every page before signing anything. Adrian watched her argue over clauses with a room full of attorneys and did not interrupt once. That mattered. Malik changed next. His breathing improved. His school received updated medical forms, a stocked inhaler, and a very quiet visit from Adrian's assistant. Teachers suddenly remembered Malik was bright, not difficult. The nurse began smiling too much. Nia noticed everything, but she chose not to complain because Malik came home one day grinning with a science prize certificate. He said, I'm good at noticing details, Malik told Adrian, who had stopped by the building to check renovation progress. Adrian looked at him. That is a powerful skill. Mom says I'm nosy. Also powerful. Malik laughed. Nia stood in the doorway watching them, arms crossed, trying not to let her heart soften too quickly. Adrian never came empty-handed, but he learned not to bring expensive things. Instead, he brought building plans, legal updates, medicine receipts already marked paid by the Carter Trust, and once, a used book about architecture because Malik had said he liked fixing broken places. That night, Malik fell asleep with the book open on his chest. Nia found Adrian on the stairwell landing, looking at the fresh paint. You keep showing up, she said. Yes. Why? He looked at her. Because you have not told me to stop. Her breath caught. It was not the answer she expected. I might. Then I will stop. You say that like it's easy. It would not be. Honesty again. The kind that did not beg to be trusted. Only stood there and waited. Nia looked away. I'm not ready to make sense of you. I am not asking you to. What are you asking? Adrian stepped down one stair, still leaving space between them. To be allowed to protect without owning. To repair without controlling. To stand near the door if danger returns. Her voice softened despite herself. And if there's no danger? His eyes held hers. Then I would still like to stand there. The silence between them changed. Not romance like flowers and music. Something quieter. A woman who had fought alone too long. A man who had inherited blood and was trying to turn it into shelter. Neither touched, but both felt the shift. A week later, Matteo Moretti's final memorial was held not at the mansion, but at the renovated community hall on Fulton Avenue. Nia had insisted. "If your father owed this neighborhood," she told Adrian, "then let his name face the people he forgot." Adrian agreed. The hall filled with tenants, families, workers, Moretti men, lawyers, and people who had never before stood in the same room without fear dividing them. There were flowers, but simple ones. Food, but enough for everyone. No pearls. No cruel laughter. No locked doors. Adrian stood at the front, cane in hand, black suit sharp, tattoos visible beneath his cuff. Nia stood near the side with Malik. When Adrian began speaking, the room quieted. "My father was not an innocent man," he said. "Neither am I. But he understood one truth before he died. A debt ignored becomes a curse. Viola was not there. Marcus was not there. Harrow was not there. But their absence felt like justice." Adrian continued. "Samuel Carter saved my father's life and lost his own. The Moretti family failed the Carter family. That failure ends now." He turned to Nia. She stiffened as every eye moved toward her. Adrian did not ask her to come forward. He simply said, "The Fulton Avenue building and Carter Trust have been restored to Nia Carter and her son Malik. A clinic for children with asthma and housing-related illness will open on the first floor. It will be named for Samuel and Ruth Carter." Nia's hand flew to her mouth. Her mother's name. Malik whispered, "Grandma gets a clinic?" Nia nodded through tears. Adrian stepped down from the front and approached them slowly. In front of everyone, he stopped before Nia and Malik. "I cannot return what my family stole from you," he said. "Years, peace, your mother's certainty that you would be safe, your son's easy breathing. But I can spend my life making sure no one steals from you again." Nia stared at him. This was not a contract. It was not a performance. It was a vow made in daylight. Malik looked between them and then slipped his small hand into Adrian's tattooed one. The entire hall watched the most feared man in the city freeze because a child trusted him. "Does that mean you're our friend?" Malik asked. Adrian's mouth softened. "If your mother allows it." Malik looked at Nia. "Can he?" Nia looked at Adrian, then at the families in the room, then at the building that no longer felt like a cage. Her heart was still careful, but careful was not the same as closed. "He can start there," she said. Adrian accepted that like it was the greatest permission he had ever been given. Months later, the clinic opened beneath a blue awning that read Carter Family Health Center. Malik cut the ribbon with oversized scissors while Nia stood behind him laughing. Adrian stood at the edge of the crowd, as he had promised, near the door, not blocking it, guarding it. Children came in for breathing tests. Mothers came in without shame. Tenants came downstairs instead of taking buses across the city. The building smelled like fresh paint, coffee, and something Nia had not trusted in years. Hope. That evening, after the crowd left, Nia found Adrian in the hallway looking at a framed photo of Samuel Carter and Matteo Moretti pulled from an old newspaper clipping. Two men covered in soot outside a burning warehouse. One alive because the other had carried him out. "My father never told me," Nia said quietly. Adrian turned. "Neither did mine. Maybe they were both ashamed. Maybe they thought silence protected us." Nia shook her head. "Silence almost destroyed us." Adrian nodded. "Then we will not build anything on silence." She looked at him for a long moment. Then Malik ran from the clinic office holding a drawing. It showed 3 people outside the building. His mother, himself, and a tall man in a black suit standing by the door with a cane. "This is for you," Malik told Adrian. Adrian took the drawing carefully. "What am I doing here?" he asked. "Watching the door," Malik said. "Like you said." Nia's eyes burned. Adrian looked at the drawing, then at the boy. "I will always watch the door." Malik grinned and ran back inside. Nia and Adrian stood together in the quiet hallway. "You know," she said softly, "one day there may not be a debt left." Adrian looked at her. "I know. What happens then?" For the first time, the dangerous man looked almost uncertain. "Then I hope you let me stay because I want to." Nia's breath caught. Outside, city lights flickered against the windows. Inside, the clinic hummed softly, warm and real. She reached out and touched his tattooed hand. Not because she owed him, not because he owned anything, because for the first time, the hand that had once represented danger felt like a promise she was choosing to believe slowly. Adrian turned his palm beneath hers, careful, giving her every chance to pull away. She did not. The debt that brought him to her had been born in fire, hidden by greed, and paid through pain. But what grew after it belonged to neither father, neither family, neither old promise. It belonged to Nia, who had survived without becoming hard. To Malik, who had recorded the truth when adults tried to bury it. And to Adrian, who learned that protection was not power over someone. It was standing beside them until they remembered they could stand alone. If this story pulled you into the world of loyalty, danger, single mother strength, and mafia protection, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Would you have trusted Adrian, or walked away with your child?